In the country, we're joined by James Taranto, editor of OpinionJournal.com, CNN contributor, New York Daily News columnist Errol Lewis, and Errol is also the host of the morning show on WWRL in New York City, and CNN contributor, Democratic strategist Robert Zimmerman, and Robert is also a Democratic National Committeeman for New York. Gentlemen, thanks for being with us. You know, we'll start with Senator Obama's tour, of course. It dominated the news this week. I wonder why. And James, your column was absolutely hysterical that you could say it's dog bites man.
Well, thank you. It's very gracious of you to bring this up because I was writing about something that happened on this network the other day. Wolf Blitzer on his show was having a discussion with a couple of strategists, one Democrat, one Republican, on the question of whether the media are in the tank for Barack Obama. And then he interrupted this for a news flash that Barack Obama's plane had landed safely in Tel Aviv. Now, plane land safely is kind of one of the archetypical non-news stories, like dog bites man, except that if Obama had been bitten by a dog, that actually would have been news. Obama's plane landing safely is literally an everyday occurrence.
All right, that's pretty harsh. Errol, thoughts on Obama's trip?
Well, look, it was a big success for him. He won every day. If you break it into news cycles, he dominated the news. There was some legitimate news value there, but over and above that, there was clearly a fascination, not only by the press, but by the public that he was greeting overseas. So it was a great week for him politically. It doesn't necessarily translate into the votes he's going to need to win. But I talked with some people who were in the entourage, and they said that the campaign aides were ecstatic. It was much better than they could have hoped for.
That's interesting. Robert, you know, McCain has said it's a premature victory lap. What have you to say to that?
I think John McCain sounds a bit like a jilted lover. After all, it was 8 years ago when he ran for president where he described the media as his base. And, of course, both sides should take consolation in the fact knowing that the media fascination with Obama will wane at one point.
But let me just say, McCain dared him to go, challenged him to go,
absolutely,
and now is complaining that he's getting too much coverage.
And also remember, Kitty, too, granted, a lot of it was a fascination with Obama, but there was significant news made during his trip. All of a sudden, the Bush administration announces time horizons, following a theme Obama has talked about in terms of withdrawals. And Prime Minister Maliki announced informally his support for the Obama plan for phased withdrawal of troops.
Although Mr. Maliki is facing elections, and that does play very well into his position in the country.
There's no question. He benefits from a whole series of events.
Right.
Well, in defense of McCain, he didn't dare Obama to go to Berlin and speak to, depending on who you believe, 20,000 or 200,000 people. He dared him to go to Iraq and learn what's going on there. And, you know, I don't know if this Berlin thing is a political winner for him. I mean, yes, he's fabulously popular in Germany. How many electoral votes does Germany have? Zero.
Yeah.
But how much is
I think Obama, I think it's great that he went, except I think he should have waited 6 months. This is the kind of thing that a president does. It's not the kind of thing a candidate for president does. We, the voters, would like to have a chance to weigh in before Barack Obama speaks for our country.
Well, James, I don't think you have to worry about that. You're going to have your chance to speak out. No one's ever going to stop you. But, however, it's important to note that what Barack Obama did, members of past presidential candidates have done historically. He did it, of course, at a very unique time and got tremendous response because we are at a moment right now where I think the world does want to work with the United States leader. And I think Americans want to break away from the Bush go-it-alone approach to foreign policy. So I think his appearance had a tremendous impact because of what it represents symbolically.
You know, what happens if McCain is elected?
Robert, you point out, you say that the trip made news. It also generated a little bit of controversy. Now, John McCain saying that, you know, this is a whole exercise in winning a political battle, and that Obama actually would rather lose a war than lose a political battle. Let's listen to the comment that Wolf Blitzer asked John McCain about this statement today. So let's listen.
I am stating the facts, and the facts are that I don't question Senator Obama's patriotism. I'm sure that he's a very patriotic American. I question his judgment because he lacks experience and knowledge, and I question his judgment. I'm not prepared to see the sacrifice of so many brave young Americans lost because Senator Obama just views this war as another political issue, which he can change positions.
Now, this is a serious charge.
It is. It is one of the most outrageous charges I've ever heard a major nominee for president level against another. This wasn't stating the facts that John McCain now says. He essentially accused Barack Obama of treason. And John McCain is so much better than that. and he's had such a more substantive career than to stoop to that level. It speaks to the desperation and the lack of preparedness John McCain has to lead our country to level those kinds of charges.
The question I had after hearing that was, well, how does John McCain define victory? You know, I mean, it's $539 billion spent, 30,000 wounded, plus 4,100 dead and counting. He's given statements that have led people to believe that he wants 20, 30,000 troops there in perpetuity. When do we win? And whatever he's got in mind, it's not necessarily what the public wants.
Well,
and blaming Obama for that is not going to get him anywhere.
Well, what was noted with the Obama comments was the just inability to credit the surge with great progress in Iraq.
Well, if Obama had had his way, we would have lost the war. It's very simple. And there you know, ever since Vietnam, there has been a sense that it's okay to lose a war. There were people in this country who caused us to lose the war in
James,
Vietnam.
there isn't a Democrat or Republican in the Congress or any citizen in this country who would accept defeat or would tolerate losing a war. That has never been the issue.
That's exactly what Barack Obama was pushing for. He wanted to withdraw from Iraq. He was willing to settle for defeat. I'm sorry, that's just the way it is.
Excuse me, James.
Now, having said that,
excuse me for speaking while you're interrupting, but if I could just make the point, this is not about making personal attacks against each other. It's about the fact that this was a war that two-thirds of the American people thought was an ill-conceived war that was fought under false pretenses, and we're all trying to find a way to best remove our troops so we can refocus on fighting terrorism.
Well, two-thirds think it's an ill-conceived war now. Two-thirds thought it was a well-conceived war at the time that we made the decision, at the time that Congress, by bipartisan vote, went to go to war. But, look, it's very simple. If Obama had had his way, we would have lost the war. And but that said, I think the fact that we are now doing much better is going to work to his advantage because Iraq is much less of an issue than it was.
When and how do we win the war?
We win the war by installing a stable government in Iraq and getting to the point where...
You know, both parties are really at fault here. The Democrats by trying to make the case that the war was the war was wrong. In fact, that issue's already been settled, but that's not going to solve the problem. And the Republicans and John McCain by making the case that the surge is right. At the end of the day, those tactical debates are no longer relevant. The issue is how best to fight terrorism, how best to take on al-Qaeda, and how best to bring our efforts in Iraq to a conclusion where the Iraqi government now has a $35 billion surplus.
But, you know, Robert, you brought out this point that on the campaign trail, you're seeing a convergence of ideology on Iraq. You're seeing sort of more or less discussion of when to leave by almost every party at this point. It will not be such a contentious issue going forward. Why make it such a drastic statement right now?
Well, that's what I can't understand about the McCain campaign when every survey shows that the economy and the suffering of the middle class of this country is so pronounced and so severe. Why he engages in these personal attacks, I truly don't understand.
I think we will still have troops in Iraq on January 20th, 2013, regardless of who wins the election.
And if that's what victory is about, he should run on it. He should come out and say it. And, you know, and we'll see what the voters think of it. Every indication is that that's not what the public wants.
Thanks very much, gentlemen. Always a lively discussion and well worth it. Thanks very much. James Taranto, Errol Lewis, and Robert Zimmerman. Thank you. Still ahead, big companies cashing in on billions of federal dollars meant for small businesses. It's another example of your government at work. We'll have a special report. Also later, heroes. It's our tribute to the men and women who serve this country in uniform. And tonight we introduce you to Captain Ivan Castro. He is the only blind officer serving in the Special Forces. Stay with us.